So this week in WordPress, 3 articles caught my eye, and I sent them ahead of time to Julie so that she could read them and we could talk about them. Article number 1, the 9 web development resources I can't work without in 2015. So this was, let me see, this was an article published to WPMU Dev, and it was written by Daniel Pataki. And he actually puts a few things on the list that I'm not sure are going to apply to everybody, but this was like his personal list. He talks about Sketch 3, which is he compares it to Photoshop, but very like specifically for web design and specifically for mobile devices. So that was pretty cool. And then he has some other tools on here like GT metrics for measuring site speed, Sprintly for project management, advanced custom fields, UserSnap, and he's got a few others, CodeKit. And I guess, you know, this is going to be very much catered to his personal workflow. But I was wondering, Julie, what are some of the development or design tools that you can't work without on a daily or weekly basis?
I didn't know you were going to ask me that. So tools that I can't live without. Photoshop is my tool. I have Sketch, and I have worked with it. It had a bit of a learning curve, but actually really Photoshop these days with the current creative suite is pretty amazing, and it can do so much. It's really flexible, and I think there's a lot to be said with not trying to reinvent the wheel or not having to learn new software because, you know, let's face it, we've got enough that we've got to stay on top of in the web world anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the Adobe Creative Suite, the Cloud Suite. It's so awesome. I mean, I use Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, Audition, and a few others every single week, if not every day. And they are like seamless together. The workflows back and forth between them all. Like I couldn't do what I do with the podcast and with Elegant Themes if I didn't use that suite. So that's definitely my can't live without suite. Other than that, I mean, I don't do a lot of web development aside from building, you know, Divi websites. So I don't necessarily use like GitHub and things like that that he put on there. But I do use, as far as a non-development tool goes, I do use software called Scrivener a lot. And I don't know if you do you use that for like your course writing or for document writing or anything?
Not for course writing, but I do have a book in the works.
So. Oh, well, there you go. Scrivener is awesome.
It is
for amazing. Those who don't know, and I put this, again, this is another thing that ends up on the production notes of our podcast here is Scrivener is an awesome writing application. And if you're looking to do long form storytelling on the web, writing a book, writing, or even just organizing your blog posts before getting it into WordPress, I think it's a great tool because you have this kind of document file tree that helps you really organize your thoughts, organize your projects. It's definitely worth checking out. Well, let's jump to the next article, a general pricing guide for WordPress websites. This was written by some guy at Elegant Themes. This is an article I wrote a while back, and so it's not current in the sense that it came out this week like most of the articles we feature, but it got reblogged this week by the guys over at WP Shout, and I noticed it'd been getting some discussion on the comments again recently, so I wanted to bring it up. It felt really apt for you, Julie, being on the show and you know working as an agency yourself. What were some of your thoughts upon reading this article?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And actually, the article I thought was fantastic. And the reason I thought it was fantastic, because I think there's a lot of people hiding or lots of myths around what people should be charging. And whether you're a freelancer or an agency, I think it's really useful to be able to just get a benchmark for what's going on in the industry. And I loved how open you were with that. But what was really interesting to me was the comment, and I'm sure you're going to know which one I'm going to talk about, but there was a comment in there from someone who actually said, I don't think it's very helpful to publish this information.
This is dangerous information. It can't, you know, it's too sensitive for the public.
and I was really surprised by that. And I was actually surprised by the people that agreed with him too, because I don't see any reason to fear making this stuff public knowledge. And you didn't didn't say this is how much a website costs. You gave people a range of prices. And
these ranges are extremely generous in generality too. I mean, they literally range from a $200 DIY site to a $20,000+ custom site. So if you can't fit your services in between that range, you're probably doing something wrong. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there.
Absolutely. But there is also this thing, I think, where there are lots of people that are charging tiny amounts for the websites that they're creating. Yeah. And one of the things actually I thought that was really interesting was you said, actually, if you're going to create your own website, it's going to cost you between $200 and $1,000 anyway.
Right. That's as a base rate for doing all the work yourself, you're going to be somewhere between $200 and $1,000. And I think, after I published that, I used to have a little email that I would send people that said that if they wanted me to work on their web project. And I'm not like a developer. Like I before doing the podcast and interviewing a bunch of developers and designers, I'm a blogger, and I happen to do some websites occasionally for friends, families, organizations that I really liked working with or working for, like nonprofits or whatnot. I would do those on a volunteer basis. So I got a lot of experience designing web stuff, and I had to do a lot of research about, what designers do, their ins and outs, how they run their business. And when I started to get inquiries, I just started emailing people this link because they could not only see my thought process, but they could see first and foremost, like, this is how much you're going to spend if you don't hire me, no matter what. So if you're not willing to spend more than that to have me work on it, then let's just not go down that path. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. And actually, it's because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, I'm going to send this to people that have come to me to ask me to quote on a website, because I think it's really important that people get a sense of actually everything that's involved, right? And if you're spending at the bottom end of that $200, that leaves you $300 to build an entire site. How do you do that? I mean, how do you do that? You just don't, right? You do, but you're killing yourself to do it. And one of the things that I found is people that pay $500 for a website want the same level of service, the commitment, the quality that someone that spends $5,000 for a website.
Yeah. So there are two people this article was written for primarily. One are clients or prospective clients who just need some guideposts along the way to go, okay, are these quotes I'm getting even in the right ballpark, et cetera, et cetera. The other was for, the developer or designer who is killing themselves churning out cheap websites, not cheap quality necessarily, but just low priced websites. And, I think that do-it-yourself pricing guide was just as much for them as it was for prospective clients, because, if they could look at their own pricing and go, I'm not even charging $1,000 per website, then they're probably like, oh, well, that needs to change because I'm killing myself doing basically websites for free, because people would have to pay this amount anyway to do it themselves. It's not, they're not paying me for my services. They're just paying what they would have to pay anyway to do it.
Absolutely.
To do it all on their own. Cool. Well, I think we can probably move on to the next article. Article number 3, 6 things WordPress developers should do every Sunday to reset for the week ahead. So this was, again, published on WPMU Dev, and it was by Tom Ewer. So the 6 things he recommends developers do to reset is make sure you have up-to-date backups of everything, figure out what needs to be updated or cleaned up, plan out who needs to be reached out to this coming week, ask yourself if anything can be automated, identify important points from user feedback, and create your to-do list using everything you determined from above. He gives a couple other things too as like bonus points. So come up with a few ideas for marketing and branding, and catch up on your favorite newsletters, blogs, and upcoming conferences. I can say that personally, I like to do as little as possible and preferably absolutely nothing on Sundays.
Me too. And I love that the first one was about updating WordPress.
Right. So like, I think, everything he put on this list, there are things that I would shift to a Monday. Like, that's just how I start my week. But I think the heart of the article is, you do probably need one day a week where you plan, you reset and you plan and you make, you just make a blueprint for how you're going to go about that week. does that reflect your experience and what you do on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the thing is there are some things that you just need to create a system and a process around. So you don't even really have to think about those things. You definitely don't want to be doing them on a Sunday, but you just make sure that, you're checking in and you're doing updates. Now, honestly, I usually wait 2 weeks before I do a WordPress update just to make sure that they fix any bugs that everybody finds. But also I did laugh a bit, and this is particularly for designers, is that come up with some marketing and branding ideas was a bonus option, whereas actually I think it's
that's
a pretty
my job.
important part of building and growing your business. So that was sort of an afterthought.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think he makes a lot of good points as well. And this was, I think, more for developers who, obviously anybody who has a business, coming up with branding ideas is not an afterthought, but as far as a weekly task goes, it might be something that you squeeze. You're like, if you already have an established brand, you might go, how can I maybe pull up what I have and maybe make a few notes on things that I might want to improve or do in the future. So I don't think the heart of that tip was to say, come up with your whole branding and market. I hope not. And I don't think it was come up with it on a Sunday when everything else is done.
No, but it is important to review your marketing and activity. Look at what blog posts are getting shared, what's resonating with people, making sure that everything's working as it should be, and just ensuring that everything's ticking over. For me, that's what this is really all about, is just making sure that all your pieces are in place as they should be before you go into the next week.
And I guess to combine, to close this one out, to combine this with the first article, which was about tools, essential tools, what kind of tools do you use when you're having your planning day to help get yourself in order and ready to conquer the week?
So I'm not massively sophisticated. I use Google Docs. I think Google Docs is a fantastic tool. It's a great tool for sharing things, plans, spreadsheets, workflows. I've tried things like Basecamp and whatever. Yeah. And it's not worked for me, probably because I'm not kind of really organized enough. Whereas, with something like this where we're sharing the same document, that I really like. But also I have Google Calendar, which is a shared calendar, things like that. And I block out time for important tasks so that I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I also specify certain tasks for particular days of the week. Yeah, so me too. I try and do my planning the week before. So like on Fridays, Friday is an admin day for me and nice. Monday is a ramp up day for me. So, and then really the bulk of the work happens between Tuesday and Thursday.
Right. I have two kind of tools that I've used for planning outside of Google Apps, because I feel like everybody uses Google Apps to some extent. Like we use, Google Spreadsheets, Google Docs. But as far as like to-do or planning apps, I am a big fan of To-Do, which is actually the Swiss version one. I don't know if by Swiss Miss.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone.
It's spelled like Tux Ducks. But yeah, that's great. I love using that because especially with their new recurring to-dos, what you can just set it and say, you just put, as you're writing it, do this every day or every week or every month, and whatever time you give it, it'll automatically put that on your future calendar. So like if you say do it every month, it'll just repeat every month on that day, and likewise for all the others. So I have a certain, especially doing the show every week, I have a very long list of a certain set number of things that have to happen every week on specific days in order for me to stay on track to get things out. So I just put all of those as recurring tasks. And so every week I basically start with like 80% of my planning done because I'm able to use these apps effectively that way. The other one is Asana. If I'm collaborating with a lot of people, I love Asana. Have you used it that much?
I haven't used it as a team tool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it works great. It's simple enough to be used as an individual, which I think something like Basecamp or some of these more complex to-do apps are maybe not suited for individuals. They're too big. A little too complex, but Asana can be used for an individual or a team pretty easily. I found it's a good kind of in-between tool there.
Another just little one that you may not be familiar with is Google Keep.
I'm not familiar with it. What's that all about?
So Google Keep is what's great about it is that it's quite visual. So it allows you to create little compartments for different things, and you can add checkboxes. So you can have weekly tasks, daily tasks that you just go in and you clear the checkboxes, and then you redo the checkboxes. And it's as I say, it's quite visual. It's a bit like Pinterest when it's up on your screen.
That's
and
cool.
You can add a little image on the top of each series of activities. And it's quite fun.
Cool.
It's quite fun for if you're like designery.
Yeah, I think Trello's a little like that too. It's kind of got that card feel to it where projects are presented in that card design.
Yeah.
All right, I think that just about wraps it up for this edition of This Week in WordPress. If you're interested in reading the articles we discussed, YouTube viewers can check the video description for links, and everyone else can find the show notes on our blog. Just go to the community category in the right-hand sidebar and check out the post for Divi Nation episode 10. Don't forget, if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook, take a moment to subscribe, follow, like, and/or share. It really helps. Thanks.